now, and we are live for the 16th episode of Burning Subjects.
All right, and not to mention, before we start, this is actually going to be the first episode in a long list of many, well, from now on, actually. I guess you could say a turning point, because Michael is absent from this episode.
Michael has basically pushed his luck to the top, and now he is at the bottom. But either way,
long story short, he wouldn't leave Andrew. He wouldn't leave Andrew alone the other day, and well, as a result, we blocked him.
Well, I have yet to block him. I'll do it if he starts annoying me.
But in replacement for Michael, we have one of my old friends, Josh.
Andrew, how do I get this stinking computer to work?
What, Josh?
What are you doing?
I'm trying to add a picture to photos.
Right-click and save picture as.
Thank you.
Well, anyway, and in this episode of Burning Subjects, we're going to be talking about different coal burners. Like, most of the time, steam locomotives have a sort of coal that's
they use, bituminous coal as fuel.
It's the most regular coal that you
types
can
of
find.
coal that require, certain
Designs of
special,
fireboxes.
design modifications.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about anthracite coal burners and Welsh coal burners, too. So, the real...
Now that you mention it, another example is, locomotives that basically burn powdered coal. So, they essentially burn dust.
Powdered coal?
Yeah, basically the Deutsche Reichsbahn did that in East Germany after the war.
Interesting concept. But anyway,
I don't quite know how it works, but there you have it. That's all.
Well, I guess we might talk about those if you, by chance, get any information about that. But let's talk about
Okay, looks like I have to turn on the computer then.
So first off, let's talk about the most famous anthracite coal burners that are operational most of the time today, and those are, of course, the famous Reading T1s. Now that I realize it, this is the first time we're talking about the Reading T1s in Burning Subjects, like all four of them together.
How about all 30 that were built, and many other steam engines that burn anthracite?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about all of the anthracite burners. In fact, we're also going to be talking about some other...
Every single Reading steam locomotive, well, actually every single steam engine, and I'm pretty sure every single, CNJ locomotive.
Does this mean I need to get the popcorn?
I guess, if you want to. I guess grab your popcorn. But
Right, I'll be back in a second.
I guess we'll start off with the good old T-Dogs. So in 1940, let's start off from the very beginning. We all know the Reading T1s, the grade 484s, which burn anthracite coal. But here's a fact that probably most of you won't know. The Reading T1s actually didn't always start out. You think that they were directly built as 484s, but you couldn't have been more wrong. Reference to Steven's video. But
My dialogue.
Yes, Jim's dialogue. But the Reading T1s were actually originally 280 consolidations known as the I-10A class, which sadly none of them were preserved as the I-10As. But we have plenty of photos to back us up. But instead of the Reading deciding to order brand new locomotives, they decided to convert 30 of their I-10As into the T1s, converting them from 280 consolidations into 484 Northerns, basically double their size. And of course, basically creating more motive power for themselves. And with a little bit smaller, not smaller than the consolidations, but decent-sized driving wheels to induce more tractive effort. But in revenue service, the T-Dogs did fine until inevitable retirement overcame them in the 50s. But the Reading didn't give up yet. They they decided to give one final standoff to the great locomotives that served them and operated the famous Iron Horse Rambles, which I actually know a person who went on the Rambles when he was younger. And that was John Howell, my manager at Santa Fe Southern. He actually, his birthday was a couple of days ago. I asked him about the Rambles and what he thought of them. And he said that his father took him to the Rambles, but he didn't know about how significant they were back when he was 9 years old when he went on the excursions. But he described them as a series of incredible excursions back in time, which he didn't even know were actually machines that were going to be gone forever. But yeah, he was lucky enough to witness all four of them in operation. Well, three of them in operation. But yeah, Reading 2124 is known as the first locomotive to operate in the Rambles. And, well, of course, as I said, all four of these locomotives burn anthracite, which, if you don't know what anthracite coal does to a steam locomotive, an anthracite coal burner has a much bigger or wider firebox to allow a bigger and hotter fire to burn. Anthracite coal burns
Basically, from what I've heard, anthracite is a much denser type of coal, and so it burns much more slowly.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's like much more packed together compared to the bituminous coal that you would find in most other steam engines.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Hey, Andrew, I think I remember these locomotives.
What?
I think I remember these locomotives because I remember at one point you and I sat down and watched some videos on the 2100 and it was running with some other anthracite burners.
Yeah, those were sister locomotives. And those sister locomotives were 2102 and 2124. 2101 was kept as a side locomotive just in case any of the others broke down, or presumably as a parts locomotive. But, well, after the funny thing is, since 2124 was the first one to enter the Iron Horse Rambles, it was also the last one. Well, it was also the first one to be out of the Rambles. And then it was bought by F. Nelson Blount and put on display at Steamtown National Historic Site, where it resides today. And recently, it actually got a pretty nice cosmetic makeover in its original Ramblers paint scheme, which, can we all agree that that's amazing?
It's sex on wheels, basically.
Yeah. Especially the photo session they did.
I need that booty.
Thick firebox, that's for sure. Anyway.
She be looking thick.
Anyway. Now to 21. Let's go to 2102. Yeah, 2102 will be a good one.
Yeah, let's do this one. This is my favorite T1 Northern.
Actually,
it's the one that had the longest excursion career out of all of the survivors.
Yeah, Steven, you can take the mic on this one.
Being bought by Steam Toros of Akron, Ohio after the Rambles ended. And powering excursions, I believe in like even in places like West Virginia, like all those places, and in like Ohio. I'm not sure where else it went, but I know it was also used by Ross Perlin's High Iron Company in 1972 or 73 for the whole when they disguised it as a Delaware and Hudson K62 number 302.
Which,
and
can we just agree that 2102's cosplay as a D&H Northern looks better than the actual D&H Northern?
Because they look like aliens.
Well, because Owen would beg to differ because, apparently he likes those engines a lot for some reason. But trust me, the real K62s, I mean, they are ugly, but not as ugly as I think those Pacifics that they had.
Pacifics.
Like old Delaware and Hudson, or the newer Delaware and Hudson Pacifics looked ugly. So yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly sure about. Let me actually look at. Hold on, let me actually look up some information because there's a lot of information about it on that one VHS tape. Let me see here. It basically just continued its excursion life, basically pulling mainline excursions like until it was bought by like the Blue Mountain in Reading. Let me see here.
Following a couple of Conrail trips on the former Erie Lackawanna from Kent, Ohio, Pennsylvania, in the spring of 1977, 2102 again returned Horseshoe Curve. In May of 1977, 2102 doubled Grand Trunk Western 282 number 4070.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that 470 double-headed with a T1.
During one of the trips, as the two locomotives installed in the famous Pensy grade, 4070 threw an eccentric rod, resulting in on one track of Conrail's busy four-track main for several hours. Following the event, Conrail banned steam operations for many years. Repair went on to excursion trains through the Cuyahoga Valley in Akron, Ohio, while 2102 went back to Brownsville for a hibernation.
Got it, but yeah, I mean, it basically just continued its excursion career, and it operated on the Blue Mountain in Reading from 1985 to 1991 when its fleet time expired, and for whatever reason, Steamtown National Historic cited a hold of the locomotive and tried to restore it. It never happened, but I mean, the engine is actually getting restored by the Blue Mountain in Reading again, or Reading in Northern, excuse me, but I like to call it the Blue Mountain in Reading because that's what it was originally called, And honestly, I think that'll be probably a little bit more interesting than the freaking 425.
And to be honest, I just need to talk about this for a second. Why would Steamtown take, by chance at all, think about looking at 2102 when they can't even restore a goddamn Pacific?
They're retarded.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they were just smoking fucking some sort of special coal of some sort.
Probably weed.
Yes, I got this weed crystal right here. Just.
My God,
ow, my nose. My nose.
2102's fucking, 6 chime was fucking godly when it was on the fucking BM&R.
Yeah, and yeah, just listen to that.
And not only that, but I'm pretty sure that 2102 actually got to pull some like freight trains of some sort on the BM&R, like actual revenue freight trains.
Oh yeah, that's right. They had a coal drag with her at one point.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that they are actually in anthracite coal country.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So yeah, and to be honest, let's just be happy that 2102 is getting restored today. I mean, it was slow at first, but because of the COVID, they've been able to focus so much on this restoration, and let's just be very happy for them.
I'm pretty sure it was so slow because they ended up having to fucking store 614 over at BM&R for whatever fucking reason.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Honestly, 614's overrated. 2102 is obviously the better locomotive.
Well, you talk about a 21. You talk about a 2102 being better than 614, when in reality, there's one locomotive out there that beats all of the Northerns in this era. It's the one I used to work on for 2 years.
29, 26, okay, whatever,
yeah.
But personal opinion, 2102 is, I would rather fire or drive 2102 than 614.
Agreed. The T1s are my favorite Northerns.
If I was in a position to refurbish any Northern, I would pick 614, but I would be pulling a bit of a controversial move and I'd convert it to burn oil because I want to go with the changing times.
Well, if you're just, why don't you just?
With me too, honestly.
Why don't you just find a locomotive that already burns oil?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm a bit of a sucker for 614. And, maybe I can convince CNO purists that an oil-fired steam engine from the CNO wouldn't be so bad if, at the very least, the conversion is done properly.
Well,
The same with an N&W purist.
well, Ross Rowland might not be very happy about that, though. Ross Rowland himself.
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. After his little stab at the Union Pacific, saying that 4014 is not a proper steam engine anymore, I actually lost a bit of respect for him.
Same,
Uh,
honestly. But, and honestly, I would have to disagree when it comes to the T1 Northerns and their red and guard being plain looking. I don't think they're really plain.
yeah, I think I love the T1s. But
Also, for some reason, when 2100 was owned by Richard Kuhn, it actually had a visored headlight. That's something I noticed. But, it didn't have a visored headlight in revenue. Like, the T1s didn't normally have visored headlights, but 2100 did when it was, owned by Richard Kuhn.
I do like the visored headlight on
Only
2100,
two
though.
passenger cars, one of which was a tool car.
But anyway, how about we go on to the most overrated T1?
Ah, yes, 2101, a tragic case of spontaneous combustion.
Yes. Well, let's I guess we'll start with 2101 then. So 2101, as I said earlier, was one of the locomotives they kept for the Rambles, except the difference was 2101 didn't operate in the Rambles. It was just a standby locomotive. But after the Rambles, 2101 and 2100 were both sold to a scrapyard. But they wouldn't really remain there for long, as two things. One, the scrapyard manager decided to save them for preservation, luckily. And two, Ross Rowland was looking for a new locomotive to enter in his American Freedom Train project. And so 2101 was...
So let me explain a little bit of better detail, because I saw the Ross Rowland documentary.
yes.
Ross found out that 4449 was too tall to, quote unquote, tall to come east of Chicago. So they were left with a little bit of a dilemma. So they needed to find another solution of powering the train east of Chicago under steam, So they found 2100 and 2101. The former was used as a parts donor, while the latter was restored within 30 days. With they met the Freedom Train concept with 5 minutes to spare.
Well, two things I want to talk about. One, of course, they used 2100, the prototype, as a parts donor locomotive. Well, I think that's kind of sad. But, I mean, at least we'll talk about 2100 later. But the crazy part I wanted to talk about is that 2101 got restored in just 30 days. That is a record. That is a f***ing record of steam locomotive restoration. And nonetheless on a 484. How do you do that?
I don't know. They more than likely had a shit ton of volunteers and all that stuff working 24/7, just around the clock, nonstop. Different shifts. Some people work in day shift, some people work at night shift.
I mean, it's taken 20 years to restore 2926, and they restored 2101 in 30 days.
Well, that's mainly because they added another one, number 2100, to be used as a parts donor at the time.
Well,
The funny thing is, eventually that one would see excursion life, despite being a parts donor.
Yeah, we'll talk about 2100 later. Well, 2101, after being restored for the American Freedom Train, of course served Ross Rowland for a lot longer than 5 years after the American Freedom Train, as it was also used in the Chessie Steam Special, which is everyone's favorite livery for some reason. I mean, I do like the gray smoke box, but that's really it. But, of course, the Chessie Steam Special was something to basically... It was to... celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Baltimore and Ohio route. But my question is, why didn't they paint it in a Baltimore and Ohio livery then?
I don't know. I really don't know. But I think that, I believe one of the chairman of the one of the chairmen of the Chessie system actually, approached Ross for the idea of the Chessie Steam Special. They actually did suggest a couple of display cars from exhibits from the B&O Railroad Museum, but the the fucking plans for the plans for the display cars fell through, but it still was able to power shit to engines and all that shit. I don't know what I'm saying, but The funny thing is, 2101 is also the only T1 Northern to never operate, in the
In the Iron Horse Rambles.
Delivery and preservation.
Oh yeah, it hasn't operated in its original livery and preservation. I never realized that.
No, it hasn't even really been in its original Reading livery in preservation, unless you maybe found it in a scrapyard and all that shit.
Well, after the chassis steam special, it was stored in a roundhouse, but in that roundhouse, it caught fire. And 2101
That's
was.
why I said it was spontaneous combustion.
Yeah. 2101 was seriously damaged and beyond economical repair. And so a trade was made with Ross Rowland, who decided to buy the 614, which is also a 484, but this one was also from the Chesapeake in Ohio, where 2101 was sent to the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum and cosmetically restored, even though from the burn marks, she'll never look the same again. And quite frankly, the locomotive looks even worse now. And to be honest, sadly, 2101. What?
Mechanically speaking, it's too far gone to really give mechanical refurbishment, probably.
But if anyone even dares to choose 2101 as a restoration, they will go bankrupt like that.
That's why I said it's probably too far gone in terms of its mechanical condition. But hey, cosmetic, I'd say, go for it. Give it, give it a fresh lick of paint.
Yeah, especially the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum isn't one for taking care of its locomotives.
Yeah, look at 2705.
Look at 1604. Look at 1309 before it was
stored indoors.
Look at 1309 before it was taken out.
I'm pretty sure the 5300 would have probably been in that, in that same little thing if it was left outside. I'm pretty sure it's indoors now.
Yeah, it's indoors now, but yeah. Anyway, let's go on to my favorite of them. Because as I said, while most of the other T1s,
2100.
most of the other T1s lived a more happy-go-lucky life, such as 2124 has been taken care of in the last few years very thoroughly. 2102 got to see the most service out of all of the T1s, and 2101 got the most fame out of the T1s. While 2100 wasn't as lucky as the other three. Overall, the engine spent more time in storage for being transported than it did in operation. Because after the locomotive was used as a parts donor locomotive, it went through the ownership of the locomotive changed hands half a dozen times. What? Eggs. I don't know, Anthony. But anyway. But there were a couple of owners that actually did treat the 2100 right, such as one of the previous owners of Lionel Trains, who restored the 2100 to original factory condition. And of course used it for a couple. Richard Kuhn.
Albeit, when it was in ownership of Richard Kuhn, I know this is a small detail that I noticed, but hold on, let me get a picture and post it in USA Locomotives of the 2100. More than likely, when it was done by Richard Kuhn, because it's only pulling a fucking tool car and a coach, which not very many passengers can ride in that thing. But 2100 actually had a visored headlight, which,
Ooh, that's beautiful!
Whatever.
I love
That
it.
shine, though. That shine.
Honestly, it looks like your Gmod locomotives, Jim. It really looks like some of your engines in Gmod.
Yeah. I don't really give a crap about, where the headlight is visored or unvisored. Headlight is a headlight. The end.
Honestly, that looks.
The person that talks about the position of bells and air compressors.
Ooh, that was a good one, Steven.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna make that big of a fuss about a headlight.
What if I decided to put the headlight on the side of the locomotive?
You fucking madman.
I knew you'd say that. You knew you'd say that.
You know what? I'm gonna do that.
I meant, compared to visored or unvisored, whatever.
What if I just make it just a
Again,
dangling light? How about
21
that?
had a visored headlight during its excursion careers.
But yeah.
So what?
But anyway, let's continue talking about 2100. As Steven said, at one point, while she was in excursion service owned by Richard Jenkins, 2100 had a visored headlight, which none of the other 21 T1s ever had. But
Richard Jenkins.
I think it was Richard. No, Richard Jensen. Richard Kuhn. Anyway, after the excursions with Richard Kuhn, well, it was then bought by the worst person who could have ever gotten his hands on the 2100. None other, I can't believe I'm going to have to talk about this, Thomas Paine. Now, why am I doing this? Because the 2100, when 2100 fell into Thomas Paine's hands, she was converted to burn oil. Which...
This wouldn't have been so bad if he did it properly, but he didn't do it properly.
I think he used a burner that was from a Canadian Pacific Mikado. He probably didn't know that much about United States locomotives, as he probably only worked on, Canadian locomotives. I mean, hell, for all I know, that Stoker was probably off of 5361, the Mikado that Dan wants to restore in real life.
But anyway, 2100, either way, even if it was done properly, wouldn't have done very good on burning oil, because as said, she burns anthracite coal, which burns much slower than the more common bituminous coal, which most coal-fired locomotives use. So even if it was converted to burn oil, the oil fire would have to be operated constantly, which would use a huge amount of oil. It wouldn't be very cost effective, which is the whole point of an oil-fired steam locomotive. But on top of all that, because of the oil firing, the boiler pressure dropped dramatically over the time that it was being used. It could barely even haul itself along, even with a caboose. On top of all those problems, when the locomotive could barely haul itself along, the sort of low pressure caused the whistle to sound atrocious. To the point where people
squelched and
it's like it's like it's screaming in pain. It's like, help me! It's like, help me! I'm suffering!
Look in U.S. locomotives. What I did, you've probably already seen these.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention the little marker lights. Not marker lights.
I don't mind the ditch lights on the near the pilot, but the one on the door, that's dumb.
So
Pain.
What kind
of crack have you been smoking?
So what
kind of crack were they growing up north in Canada? Hey.
So another thing they did to 2100, well, it was two other things. One, the very bad paint scheme. They painted her side skirting up with a red stripe and lettered the tender with Ferroquis, which is Latin for iron horse. On top of it,
Iron Horse rambles. Is that why they put it in that paint scheme? Is because it operated in the ramble? Yeah, 2100 did operate the rambles, by the way.
Yes, it did, by the way. And it also, of course, added those lights on the locomotive, which one of them annoys me to the point I can barf. Like, it looks like if you had a second nose. That's what it looks like.
On the door, that was a terrible idea.
That was so dumb.
Below the headlight, okay?
Yeah, just put it above the headlight. That would have been fine. But
that was dumb.
But they plan to operate, 2100. Well, Payne intended to use this engine for excursions somewhere in the Rocky Mountains in Canada, but the plans ultimately failed. And 2102 was moved to a
2100.
line. Did I say 2102 again?
Yep.
God, I said that in the video too. In my video, I accidentally said 2102 instead of 2100. But yeah, I did.
You like 2100. You like 2102 too much.
Yeah, I know. 2100 was basically moved to Tacoma, Washington, far from its home in Pennsylvania.
And they're
And
operated on the short-lived Golden Pacific Railroad. And guess what? It always needed a diesel to push its ass.
Because the 2100 couldn't steam properly because of the low pressure that it could barely supply itself with. In fact, it could.
but I don't think there's anthracite coal in Washington State.
Yeah.
Also, Michael just messaged me again. God fucking damn it.
And he's also messaging us on the.
So give me another chance.
He's also living.
Because I learned my lesson. I want to be back on the cylinder cup. And it
Listen to what my brother says.
What?
You're fired.
You're fired! But anyway.
And you guys need to watch your mouths if you're on there live. I'm serious.
Oh no, don't worry. This stream isn't for kids.
Our videos aren't meant for kids.
But anyway.
There's some fucking Christians in here.
Andrew, I actually did it. I don't. Excuse me. What's he said?
He said, no, I'm not fired. Let me back in.
He is fired.
You're fired.
You're fired.
You're fired!
Now, shall we continue with the subject matter?
Yes.
Yes, basically, 2102.
2100!
Okay, I guess I'm not going to talk. I was going to say something about 2100 being restored by the American Sea Railroad Preservation Association, who's currently rebuilding the 14-1 properly and converting it back to anthracite coal and, well, not really that surprisingly, relettering it back to its original Reading livery. And if you look at USA locomotives, these are some photoshops that I did of 2100. If it was owned by Thomas Payne, but still put in the Reading livery.
And I have another sort of update for you guys about 2100. It's been supported by two different steam legends, and those being Ross Rowland and Dora McCormick.
Oh, sex on wheels.
Ross Rowland provided funding for the 2100 to help certify its boiler again, and Dora McCormick helped to find someone who could help weld back in the stay bolts. And speaking of which, her Federal Railroad, her 1472, the inspection is almost closing. So maybe if the boiler is ready by then, she won't have to wait 15 years again. But to say the least, her hydro test might be coming up very soon once the stay bolts are all put in. But to say the least, 2100 will languish no more, gladly, and yeah. Luck will rise for this locomotive someday, hopefully. And maybe, because of 2102 and 2100 hopefully returning to operational soon, maybe we can finally have another doubleheader with the two T-Hogs.
Maybe. And also, I think, did you say that they plan to operate it at the Cuyahoga Valley? Maybe then that can actually be the engine that does steam in the valley instead of 765. That would be awesome seeing that engine do that. Oh wait, I think I remember. If I'm wrong, I'm actually going to see if I can look up a picture because I swear there's a picture of it on the Ohio Central. The 2100 running on a test run on the Ohio Central, but I can't fucking find it because there's like shit tons of pictures of fucking 2101 up the butthole. And when I'm trying to look for the pictures of 2100 on the Ohio Central, or at least there's a video of it. I'm not exactly sure. Here, let me see here, and it there.
Well, let's see.
Here we go. Here's a video in USA locomotive. Poor quality that somebody just recorded with their camcorder, but it looks like it's 2100 doing test runs on the Ohio Central.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Right. Disconnecting my phone from my charger. I'm gonna get into bed, but I'm still gonna be here for.
Okay.
Like I don't feel tired enough to go to sleep.
But anyway, now that we've talked about the most famous anthracite coal burners of them all, let's talk about some of the more interesting ones that aren't operating. And those, of course, are the Camelbacks. But we're not just going to be talking about one. We're going to be talking about all of them that are still around. And one.
So we're still stuck on anthracite burners.
Yes. For now, anyways. So
maybe you would like to know more about dust-fired locomotives.
We'll talk about the dust-fired after the Camelbacks. But anyway, our first Camelback on the list is C&J number 592. Also known as the Central Railroad of New Jersey, which is C&J. 592 is a 442 Atlantic Camelback built in 1901 by the American Locomotive Works, and surprisingly, is built for speed with 85-inch diameter drive wheels and 20-inch diameter cylinders.
What?
Yeah, a high-speed Camelback. What do you guess?
What's the boiler pressure and what's the goddamn piston stroke?
Boiler pressure.
While you're at it, look up the whole tractive effort.
Well, the tractive effort here, when it was first built, had 22,000 pounds of tractive effort. And after its rebuild in 1913, it had 28,000 pounds of tractive effort.
What class?
Class. Doesn't show an exact class.
Okay, let me see here. I got some variables here. Driving wheel diameter. In 1913, it was rebuilt with 79-inch diameter driving wheels.
Oh, so it had smaller drivers back then. Well, now it has smaller.
It started out with 20.5 by 26-inch cylinders when apparently it was first built in 1901. But in 1913, during its rebuild, it got bigger, 22 by 26-inch cylinders.
So it was it was built more suitable for freight.
Is the boiler pressure? I am very curious as to what the fuck that is.
Well, considering it's a Camelback, let's just assume that it's about 200.
It's a P6S class, according to steamlocomotive.com. So I'm going to look it up. P6S, apparently for superheated, 590 through 595, okay. Boiler pressure, 210 pounds per square inch in terms of the 1913 rebuild. 28,433 pounds, superheated. Let's see, the regular P6, so in its old condition, same boiler pressure. Just under 23,000.
How did we not know much about this Camelback already? Because this is actually a very interesting Camelback. I mean, it's an Atlantic type, it's a Camelback, and it's from the...
It had another fairly hefty rebuild that, changed its tractive effort quite a bit and arguably led to a bit of reclassification.
Anyway, as said...
2914, first time.
Oh, I get it.
Oh my god, I'm looking in the cylinder cocks and I found Southern Railway number 21C1.
Oh god, yeah, the first merchant navy.
But anyway, let's go back to 592. So as said, it was built by Alco.
Alco.
Acco, oh boy, and was featured in the Baltimore and Ohio's Royal Blue Express route, which I'm not sure why a Camelback would be an express service, but yeah. It was capable of reaching speeds up to 90 miles per hour. Wow. For a Camelback? In 1926, the 592 was featured in a film called Dempsey Tunnel Flight. And from Philadelphia to New York, it was basically used in the newspapers. But also in 1926, the 592 took a couple of celebrities in this time. And it was actually recorded at speeds over over 100 miles per hour. And in 1949, the 592 was retired from service and donated to the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum on May 4th, 1954, where it resides today. And I must say, I did not know that this was a Camelback meant for speed. Very interesting. I guess you do learn something from these, but damn, I kind of want to see this Camelback now.
It's like a 440.
It's a 442. Well, the
No,
one that
I'm talking about the Lackawanna Camelback.
oh yeah, the other one that's still around.
Okay, let me see here. That is numbered like
952?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm not sure about much of that look. I'm not sure about very much of that engine. Oh, thank God it's not an ownership of Steamtown because it'd be in worse condition.
By the way, for those people thinking about the Baltimore and Ohio Camelback, that's not an anthracite burner, so we're not including it.
Oh, that fucking weird ass inspection locomotive.
Yeah.
That's a 10-wheeler. Yep, 10-wheeler with a weird ass firebox that looks like a turd coming out of someone's butthole. Really, that's what a firebox looks like. I'm gonna post another picture of said engine in this server.
Well,
let me see here. USA locomotives. I don't know much about these engines. The funny thing is, Baltimore and Ohio, I think, had mastodons, but they weren't typical mastodons. They were just these weird, ugly Camelback mastodons. Imagine if the B&O actually purchased regular freight mastodons.
Yeah.
But anyway, Stephen, would you like to talk about the other Camelback that was in excursion service?
Yes. Reading 1187.
No, not 1187. The other one.
Oh, 774. The one I don't know much about.
Huh. Oh, you don't know
I'll
much
admit, because Owen wrote most of the stuff for 774. Let me just look at the script here. I'm just gonna cheat and basically spoil the video. For those who might have obviously clicked on this video and just so happen to be fans of my, let me just look here. Okay, so let me see here because Owen wrote most of it. So let me see here. So look here. So it was built by Baldwin Locomotive Works.
Obviously.
Of course it was built by Baldwin. What else would it be fucking built by? Fucking Lima? Why would it be built by Lima?
Lima don't build Camelbacks.
Lima beans. I hate lima beans.
Ha! Lima don't build Camelback.
So anyway, it was built in 1913 by Baldwin for the CNJ, and it was classified as a L7AS type with 69-inch drivers and 210
nice.
pounds
By the way,
pressure and 23 by 28-inch cylinders. And let me look here. The engine weight is 225 8,000 pounds, and it has a tractive effort of around 40,000 pounds. Although little info has actually popped up online. The engine was more than likely used for metropolitan commuter service in and out of New Jersey's Communipaw terminal until its retirement in the 50s. The C&J was a bit generous and decided to perform a few parallel steam excursions on their route. Initially, they wanted to use a G4 Pacific 462 numbered 813 because of the fact it was more powerful and debatably in better condition. However, Trains Magazine author Don Wood insisted that they use, 774. So the C&J actually decided to swap 813 for 774 when it came to the fan trips. So the Camelback's first trip was on July 11th, 1954 on the New York and Long Branch division between New Jersey or Jersey City and Bayhead, New Jersey. So confusing when I say here. Okay, let me see here. The line was also used by the Pennsylvania Railroad and was one of the last places to see the famous K4s in action on commuter assignments. One part of the fan trip actually included a tour of the Pennsy Yard at Bayhead Junction. In 1955, Electric Railroaders Association sponsored a trip on the Wharton and Northern and High Bridge branches using the locomotive from Jersey City to Elizabethport. The last trip of 774 would take place in September of 1955 between Jersey City and Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, like the 2174, another locomotive, or I guess we're probably going to talk about in the list in the upcoming video. 774's status as a farewell steam star couldn't save it from its inevitable fate, and the venerable Camelback would be unceremoniously scrapped in 1956.
Sadly. But
and also there are no more C&J, 460 Camelbacks left.
But I mean, I guess we're lucky to have 592 then.
Okay, now can I talk about 1187?
Yeah, I've talked about 1187 enough. So take it.
Okay, 1187 was Reading 1187 is personally, I guess you could say, my favorite Camelback and probably one of my favorite Strasburg steam locomotives when it comes to their former locomotives, at least. Because honestly, Michael kind of ruined number 90 for me, considering the fact that engine actually saved other locomotives from a roundhouse fire. God damn, Michael, why are you such a farmer over it? But anyway, 1187 was built by Baldwin in 1903 for the Philadelphia and Reading, which would later become the Reading Railroad. And it was classified as an A4B, not to be confused with the L&ER Pacifics of the same similar classification. But it was used mainly as just a yard switcher. It did that until sometime in the 40s when it was bought by the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, again shifting cars for that company. Then it was bought by the Strasburg Railroad in 1962 and became the first locomotive to arrive on Strasburg's property under its own power. Following some routine maintenance and an impressive new paint scheme, albeit it didn't support the notorious egg logo of that era. So, number 4, I forgot to mention that it was renumbered to number 4 when it was at the E&G Brook plant. But anyway, number 4 began his excursion career basically as a running mate to former Canadian National number 7312, which Strasburg renumbered to 31 at the time. He was in excursion service for about 6 weeks until, they noticed problems with the locomotive. Strasburg decided to opt for, bituminous coal instead of the anthracite coal that 1187, along with the other Reading locomotives, burned. which, made it hard to fire the locomotive. And, the locomotive, and because of this, it actually lacked the steaming capabilities to pull longer trains. And because of this, they basically, reassigned number 4 to yard shifting duties, basically to help with runarounds at the station. And that for some reason, some people say that's the end of the story. But 1187 at least got some sort of grand finale to its excursion career. Because, it was assigned on May 7th of 1967, a Baltimore chapter NRHS special from Lemon Place Junction to the East Strasburg station, which was its last revenue run. After that, 1187's flew time expired, and its tire was dropped for the final time. 1187 for many, many years was in really derelict condition, I guess. Is that the word? Basically abandoned looking and all that shit.
Yeah.
But the engine was just sitting outside the Strasburg shops, hoping to, basically waiting for its turn for a cosmetic overhaul. Until it was, unfortunately for me, because I almost wanted to cosmetically restore it and put it in a future museum that I plan to have, it was bought by the Age of Steam Roundhouse, and they're planning to cosmetically restore it, unsurprisingly.
What's wrong with it, though?
Huh?
What's wrong with the Age of Steam Roundhouse restoring the 1187, though?
I almost wanted to have 1187 as like a display piece for some future museum idea, and I was like, oh, come on now, that just means like, but oh well, at least it is getting like in better like I don't know, physical shape.
Yeah, I mean, would you rather wait like 10 or 15 more years and let it rot even more, or would you rather have something happen now to immediately save
you? But I personally just would have liked to have that engine itself,
We all would.
Yeah, that is, I mean, honestly, I respect, especially after Michael's annoyance over, all that stuff, because he's kind of ruined number 90 for me. I have a lot of respect for 1187, because, again, it was technically in the preservation era, if you don't count 774, it was the only steam locomotive, it was the only Camelback to operate in the preservation era at all.
And it was also the last Camelback to operate, at all.
As late as 1967.
Yeah. It's just sad that, I mean, yes, she is going to be cosmetically restored, but it's just sad that she never got the chance that she really needed.
Unfortunately, 1187 does not have a Wikipedia page.
There's an Age of Steam Roundhouse page on it.
Oh, and I also got about a month or two ago, I had a call from the Age of Steam Roundhouse because, my restoration project, and we were like, please go sponsor that on my other channel. But I got a message from them, and, well, not a message, but a call, and, they wanted to talk to me, and so I asked them about the 1187, and they said that the 1187 is currently their second priority. So right now they got her inside, and they're doing some work.
So let me see here.
And I actually asked them if they have any plans other than cosmetic restoration. They sent a couple of photo specials, and at the very most, they said that they would try to get it back to factory fresh condition. That's a rumor. It's not confirmed.
Well,
I hope that they put it
again, but then again, the chances are near zero.
Near zero, because one, it's tiny. But then again, what do you need at a little roundhouse? I mean, they got that little switcher working. But anyway, I mean, it's tiny. It burns anthracite coal, and it's just a very obscure locomotive to restore. I mean, then again, they did restore the JNL 58, but that's besides the point.
Funny thing, it's also an 040 tender engine.
Yeah. Michael, leave us alone.
Oh my god, he's messaging you too?
Yes, he's on the live chat.
Oh god. Oh my god.
I thought you blocked him.
I did.
Well,
Not
he messaged me asking, "Oh, can you tell Andrew to give me another chance to behave because I learned my lesson and I want to be back in the
If you learned your lesson, you wouldn't be spamming the chat with the message. Now leave us alone.
God damn, he's honestly, he really is Evan.
He's worse than Evan.
I'm struggling to put a texture pack on my thing. Oh well. But yeah, he
Damn,
is
Michael,
worse than Evan.
you seek help.
Why did you have to become worse than Evan?
Michael, you were good at first. How did you change this quickly? You're in denial. You're getting in denial, just like Engineer.
Be collaborating in one of his.
Right now, guys,
Okay, let's
right now, I wish I was actually Thanos, and with a snap of my fingers, I wish I could just actually wipe him into dust.
And then he's just like, when SpongeBob and Patrick got zapped by Man Ray,
Anyway, let's get back to the
Now
subject.
that I mentioned the word dust,
Oh yes. Oh, I see what you did there, Jim.
Are pretty non-existent in America, but there were quite a few in Germany, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What wheel arrangement were they?
let's see, predominantly, various kinds of 210 decapods. So, like the East German Deutsche Reichsbahn did at one point try building a pair of new big consolidations, listed as the Baureihe at 25.10. But, most often they just ended up converting several decapods from the classes 44, 52, and 58. Better idea, actually. Basically, while you guys were also chatting about, the camelbacks and anthracite burners and whatnot, I asked my German friend Lucas if he could actually explain to me how, dust-fired locomotives actually work. Basically, they got that dust transferred from the tender into the firebox using pressurized air. Like it's literally blown into the firebox where it's burned to make steam.
That is awesome. The thing is,
basically, long story short, it was fairly mechanically speaking, it was fairly successful, just more expensive for its own good, really. Like, its main advantage was the cleaner burning of the fire, but due to the fire constantly needing to be changed depending on the steam production needs, the efficiency of a coal dust firing was never fully drawn upon. And as such, it never proved that much more efficient than a normal coal-fired engine.
so it's just, it was experimental. I like that idea, but
Yeah,
it didn't come out right.
I believe that this was basically, during the 1940s and, a little later, etc. I'm still fairly, I probably should have done a little bit more research about this, but, we can definitely say that this kind of happened maybe during, if not after, World War II, because, again, East Germany, the German, on the Deutsche Reichsbahn, so, separation of Germany, Cold War, 1950s stuff. Yeah.
Funny. I'm looking at pictures.
I can look up a picture of one now. If I'm not mistaken, this one is actually preserved. Like, I do believe that there's a preserved Class 52 locomotive with the dust firing setup still left. Just gotta actually look for it. Okay, how can I find that goddamn picture right now? That's fucking annoying.
In the meantime, I'm looking at pictures of 1187 at the Age of Steam Roundhouse, and it's lacking its stack. It looks so incomplete without its stack. Oh.
Well, what do you expect? They're trying to do the work on it. What are you supposed to do? Just keep the parts
Well,
on?
it does
And,
look a little bit off without the stack. And honestly, because, like, what do you think of the stack as if it was a human? Like, what is the stack to a steam locomotive?
an anus.
A what?
An anus.
Okay, the smoke box is the face. And obviously it's like the head, so obviously it's on top of the head. So what is it?
Well, bodily. Actually, I'm pretty sure that.
Okay, not bodily, but basically like the physical feature. I honestly think it maybe is like a hat or something like that.
I guess a little hat, maybe.
Found it. I found the locomotive. Let me now try to find a better picture of
But
it.
1187's in a better position than 769. Because, guess what?
Okay, if you gentlemen look in German locomotives on this server, you'll find a picture of a Durst-fired 52. Though I'm pretty sure that it hasn't been refurbished.
I bet I had him on this because he's gonna nut. Okay, let me see here. There we go.
Nice. But, I mean, 1187's in a better predicament than 769. Because the stack on 769, from the deterioration, the actual...
It has to be replaced.
No, it doesn't have to be replaced. The original stack inside the 769, because of the deterioration, it went inside the smoke box. Like, this is the funnel right here, and this is the top of the smoke box. It just went inside. It's just living on a prayer, basically.
So it's halfway there. Well, and now that I look at it, that 52 doesn't appear to have a complete cab. Like, it has little rear windows on the front of the tender.
It's
the back wall. Whereas most Class 52 locomotives would have a completely closed off cab.
We're halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Damn it.
This is the moment where Andrew Delgado changed his name to Bon Jovi.
He's talking more about fucking Aegis Team Roundhouse. We're talking that ended 1187's career. I'm sorry if I'm talking so much about 1187. It's just, I'm tipping my hat a lot more to 1187 because, again, I've actually earned a lot of respect for that locomotive.
Yeah, that's why I like the 1187 so much. So much so that I spent my own money to buy a brass model of an 040 Camelback. I don't have it with me because
turning it into 1187.
Yeah, I'm going to the entire model itself was basically destroyed. Well, not destroyed, but worn out. Like the motor, yeah, it still worked, but it was pretty worn. So I'm a part of a model train club, a show me, and one of our technicians, I showed him the locomotive, and he said, "Give me a week." That's all he said. But then we got into another lockdown, and now Show Me's closed, and I can't go back to get the little Camelback. So I'm assuming he's going to have it ready, but my plan is to fit it with DCC. So that's gonna be fun.
Okay, this looks kind of cursed.
What?
I know that this actually doesn't have anything to do with the subject matter of friggin' different kinds of coal-fired engines. But if you look in German locomotives, I found a reconstructed Class 52 locomotive with a Giesel stack and ejector. The one thing that I noticed is how fucking high the headlight is.
Yeah, it looks a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
Lower that bitch.
Well, I think we've really talked about the special coal burners. Welsh coal is basically just another coal in the United Kingdom.
Welsh coals have particularly higher standards, so
I don't think it.
I think because of that, you needed double pair of fireboxes.
Yeah, it's in a nutshell.
Like broad shoulders, and a narrow grate at the bottom.
Yeah.
But like that, I think that's about it. And as time went on, Welsh coal became more difficult to find, meaning that cheaper and nastier coal had to be used, and locomotives that were designed to burn Welsh coal, like for instance the Great Western's Castle class 10-wheelers, they started to struggle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But either way,
That's about all I really know about Welsh coal.
that was really it. But
What's this? What I look up so many steam engines and it says their fuel type is soft coal. What is soft coal?
I actually don't know.
Neither do I.
Whenever I think of soft coal, it always makes me think of the Penzi Q1 when it was streamlined.
What
You had to mention that
another
thing.
thing?
You had to mention that thing.
Another thing that I remember is brown coal, which like literally it was just lumps of brown colored coal, I believe.
What were they? Shit lumps?
Not really, but I think that there's some pros and cons to it over fucking bituminous coal, but I don't really remember, and I thought that it would also have a significantly worse smell.
Well, anyway, that was this episode of Burning Subjects when it comes to different coal burning
Hey, my
locomotives.
package arrived.
Different types of coal-fired locomotives.
But next time we're going to be talking about not really a steam program or a type of locomotive, but rather a mistake of a era.
Dun, dun, dun.
And you'll see what that mistake is next week.
Bullies leader.
I mean, that was a big mistake, but it's not going to be what we're going to be talking about.
Michael's favorite locomotive. I mean, what?
Oh! My God!
Are you saying Michael's favorite locomotive? What?
Yeah.
Is it number 15 or is it 90?
I don't know.
Anyway, that was Burning
Oh, wait.
Subjects.
I thought of another mistake.
Oh,
I just
what?
wanted to do
The
a
Russian 414-4.
Yeah, definitely that one. Like that. No. Billy Harrington's penis is like a fucking wet noodle compared to.
That sounds so fucking good.
You're the one who told me about Gachimuchi meme culture.
That was Burning Subjects. We'll see you guys next week for some bullshit again.